Yo, what's going on? What's good? What's good? What's popping, people? What's popping? All right. Well, I'm going to do a reboot of this video. I did this video before, but I didn't like how it came out. So I'm doing this all over again. All right. And like I said in the last video, pertains to this topic, I would like to once again say that this video has been partially inspired by a content creator by the name of Big J Triple X, because he was one of the few people who encourage people within the black manosphere to pay attention to this problem, which is so-called black boys in the United States and the mistreatment that they're getting, or the experience that they're receiving within the public education system. I mean, us as so-called black males who grew up going to public school, especially those who went to public school in the inner city, probably experienced this. But when it comes to what's going on in the so-called black manosphere, is that we're paying less attention to this problem regarding black boys in the public education system, as far as them being the demographic that's doing the worst when it comes to the fields of education. And we need to put a lot of emphasis on that, which what we're not doing. Unfortunately, we're paying attention to stuff that don't really matter. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to read an article. I'm going to read an article that comes from a website called theedadvocate.org. Theedadvocate.org. So let me screen share. Let me hit the screen share. Okay. Hold on. Chrome tab. What's going on with this? My entire screen. Okay. All right. So over here. So the title of the article is the same as the title of this video, and it's from a website called theedadvocate.com. That's what it's called right here. theedadvocate.org. And the title, like I said before, is the same as the title of this video, called 4 Troubling Truths About Black Boys in the U.S. Educational System. And the article is written by a man named Matthew Lynch, and it was written on November 20th, 2016. Now, this was written over 4 years ago, so it's a pretty old article, but the information that is given in this article still applies today. So I'm going to start reading. All right. Most people like to think that American K-12 schools, workplaces, and courthouses are pillars of fairness. But statistic after statistic all point to a crisis among young black men of the nation. This crisis begins in homes, stretches to K-12 education experiences, and leads straight to the cycle of incarceration in increasingly high numbers, aka the school-to-prison pipeline. In America's prison systems, black citizens are incarcerated at 6 times the rate of white ones, and the NAACP predicts that 1 in 3 of this generation of black men will spend some time locked up. Decreasing the rates of incarceration for black men may actually be a matter of improving educational outcomes for black boys in America. In his piece, A Broken Window's Approach to Education Reform, Forbes writer James Marshall Crotty makes a direct connection between dropout and crime rates. He argues that if education will simply take a highly organized approach to keeping kids in school, it will make a difference in the crime statistics of the future. While there are many areas, well, this is true. What I just read in this paragraph is very true, because when you see the statistics of high school dropouts amongst boys, or you even cut it down to so-called black boys, since we're in the black version of the manosphere, the black manosphere. You even look at the high school dropout rates of so-called black boys, right? And then you look at the high incarceration rates of so-called black males, you'll see it's interrelated. So this is very true. So going on, while there are many areas of improvement that we could look at changing for more successful outcomes for black men, I will discuss just 4 indicators that illustrate the current situation for black boys in the U.S., with the hope of starting a conversation about what we can do to produce a stronger generation of black young men in our society. Okay, so these are 4 factors that contributes to the problems that so-called black boys in America faces when they enter the public education system of the United States. So one problem is that Matthew Lynch wrote, one problem is black boys are more likely to be placed in special education. Now, this is something that I didn't really know before I read this article. So I didn't know that. I was oblivious to know that black boys are more likely to be placed in special education. I didn't know that. Going on, while it is true that black boys often arrive in kindergarten classrooms with inherent disadvantages, they continue to experience a behind the 8 ball mentality as their school careers progress. Black boys are more likely than any other group to be placed in special education classes, with 80% of all special education students being black or Hispanic males. I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read the sentence again. Black boys are more likely than any other group to be placed in special education classes, with 80% of all special education students being black or Hispanic males. That's fucked up. According to this article, 80% of all special education students in the United States are black and Hispanic males. Now, this is something else, man. Learning disabilities are just a part of the whole picture. Black students, and particularly boys, experience disconnection when it comes to the authority figures in their classrooms. The K-12 teaching profession is dominated by white women, many of whom are very qualified and very interested in helping all their students succeed, but lack the firsthand experience needed to connect with their black male students. It's like a cultural issue. Oh, what's going on? All right. Yeah, Black Curls. I got to do a reboot. Yeah, what's up, Black Curls? What's going on? Wadner, what's up? What's up, Wadner? If they the same or different? I don't get that. I don't get that, Wadner. I don't get that. What do you mean by that? So, but Yahoo Shalom. Black Curl says it takes very little. It takes very little. I learned this a few months ago. They're quick to pull one that's special. Yeah. They're also quick to within the public education system. Not only are they quick to pull a student and consider them to be quote unquote special, they will also be quick to label a student as having ADD or ADHD. In which I'm still trying to figure out what the hell, or what sense does it make to come up with a condition called ADD, attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, attention deficit disorder, which means that it means that you're deficient in paying attention. I don't think anybody is deficient in being able to pay attention. It's either someone is interested in something, thus they pay attention to it, or they lack interest in something, therefore they don't pay attention to something. Wagner says, he was responding to Black Her. He says, it's crazy he doing the stream. He came to mind while I was watching the breakdown. Oh, you was thinking about me. Oh, you're thinking about me. Okay. The breakdown actually cares about black boys. Black Girl's funny. Lowcast, what's up? Elbow cough, elbow cough. Okay, what's going on, Lowcast? What's up? That's true, Black Curls. He said black male teachers are important in this case. Yes, yes, sir. They are. Okay, I'm going to. So what's going on, everybody? Thank you for coming. I'll continue to read the article. Yeah. Okay, so what I just read in this article, right? So how most K-12 teachers are particularly Caucasian females, and they have issues connecting to their black male students because most likely a lot of these Caucasian female teachers grew up in predominantly white suburbs where they're oblivious towards where they cannot make a connection to their black male students because it's a cultural divide. Caucasians, they're not really culturally aware of the position of these black male students and what they have to go through in the home. So as much as they try to connect with black male students, but because of there's this cultural divide, these Caucasian teachers are unable to fully connect with their black male students as much as they would like to. So it's a cultural thing, which is why, like Black Curl says, black male teachers are very important to have, which is true. It's very important to have more so-called black male teachers. But going on, okay, factor number 2. Black boys are more likely to attend schools without the adequate resources to educate them. Schools with majority black students tend to have lower amounts of teachers who are certified in their degree areas. A U.S. Department of Education report found that in schools with at least 50% black students, only 48% were certified in the subject, compared to 65% in the majority white schools. In English, the numbers were 59 and 68%, respectively. And in science, they were 57% to 73%. So what you see in inner city schools, where a lot of so-called black boys go to school at, in which also these schools are deficient in a lot of resources or do not get as much resource or as much access to resources as schools in other communities. You have a lot of teachers that are teaching subjects that they're not certified in. And that's due to being that these schools, these inner city schools or these majority black schools, do not have a lot of resources. And, it's a safety issue. The best teachers usually leave these schools and go out to the suburbs and teach. So therefore, when so-called black boys, especially those that go to school in the inner city, once they start schools, they already at a disadvantage because they're not getting the best quality teachers, man. A lot of the teachers that they come into contact with are not even certified in teaching the topic that they're teaching these boys. So if you're not certified, if you're a teacher and you're teaching the topic that you're not certified in teaching in, there's only so much you could actually teach these students. Because 9 times out of 10, these teachers who are teaching subjects that they're not certified in probably don't fully understand the topics that they're teaching. In my opinion. But okay, what did he say? Wagner says, I only had 7 black teachers from kindergarten to high school. Woo. So go back to my first 2 comments at the top and see what I wrote. Wagner said this. Oh, okay. Wacky, it's crazy you doing this live. I want you to come to the breakdown with Sister George and stream hopping now this black pill incel guy who is Haitian they interviewing. Wagner, I have no interest in that. I have no interest in that. Regardless if he's Haitian or not, he said, Wagner says, I wanted your perspective on his assessment about Haitian women, Afro-American black women. I might do a video on that. What's going on, Stoic? Stoic, what's up, Stoic? Oh, what's going on, Jalen? Jalen, man of God, what's going on? Stoic one, what's up? You know, I might do a video on that if y'all interested, but this is we gotta stick to the topic on this one. So moving on, as I continue to read the article. Factor number 3, or problem number 3, Black boys are not reading at an adequate level. A lot of people within the so-called Black manosphere cover this part, but I'll read. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of people, but a good amount, Well, I'll take that back. A small amount of people within the so-called Black manosphere covered this, but I'll read. In 2014, the Black Star Project published findings that just 10% of 8th grade Black boys in the U.S. are considered proficient in reading. In urban areas like Chicago and Detroit, that number was even lower. Damn. You mean to tell me in Chicago and Detroit, less than 10% of 8th grade Black boys are proficient in reading? Shit. By contrast, the 2013 National Assessment of Education Progress found that 46% of white students are adequate readers by 8th grade, and 17% of Black students as a whole are too. Oh, and by the way, my fault. By the way, the article that I'm reading, the link to the article is in the video description box. I forgot to tell y'all, just in case if you guys are interested in reading the article yourselves, the link to the article that I'm reading is in the video description box, but I will also paste a link of this video in the chat. For those of you who are interested in looking at the article yourselves and reading for yourselves, moving on, or going on to the article. Okay, we said by contrast, the 2013 National Assessment of Education Progress found that 46% of white students are adequate readers by 8th grade, and 17% of Black students as a whole are too. The achievement gap between the two races is startling, but the difference between the NAEP report on Black students as a whole and the Black Star findings of just Black boys is troubling too. It is not simply Black children in general who appear to be failing in the basics like literacy. It is the boys. Wow. I mean, according to the Black Star Project, according to that study, it says that only 10% of so-called Black boys in the United States are adequate readers by the time they hit the 8th grade. That's bad. And just in cities like Detroit and Chicago, when you just isolate those cities, the amount of 8th grade Black boys who could read proficiently is even less than 10%. Which means that around the country, you have 90% of 8th grade Black boys who cannot read proficiently. That's bad. About 90, according to the Black Star Project, according to that study, about 90% of Black boys cannot read at their grade level by the time they hit their 8th grade. That's bad. And so it's to a point where so-called Black boys in America collectively are not even getting the basics packed down, especially when it comes to literacy, when it comes to just basic reading skills. And we in the so-called Black manosphere, we need to come and have these types of conversations and figure out what can we do to improve in these areas for Black boys and how to help Black boys in these areas. Instead of sitting there complaining about some stink piece of pussy all day. But moving on. Reading is only one piece of the school puzzle, of course, but it is a foundational one. I agree. If the 8th graders in our schools cannot read, how will they ever learn other subjects and make it to a college education, or in reality, to a high school diploma? Good point. Reading scores tell us so much more than the confines of their statistics. I believe these numbers are key to understanding the plight of young Black men in our society as a whole. Yeah. Because if if there's not enough black boys who can proficiently read by the time they hit the 8th grade, and usually in the 8th grade, that's the final year of junior high school. By the time you're done with the 8th grade, you're ready for high school. So if there's not enough so-called black boys who cannot read proficiently by the time they hit the 8th grade, how would they even be ready for high school? You're not even ready to speak about a college education by this point. How could these boys be ready how could they be prepared for high school if they cannot even read? If 90% of these black boys cannot read at the 8th grade level, that's fucked up. That's bad. And if they cannot read proficiently by the time they hit high school, what are the chances of these boys staying in high school? What are the chances? This is something we have to think about. This is serious. Point number 4, or problem number 4, or point number 4, problem number 4, or factor number 4, whichever you want to call it, says punishment for black boys is harsher than for any other demographic. Let me read your comment. Okay. What the Black Curl says? Black Curl says, now there are these pro-blacks going for initiatives catered to black boys specifically. Now, excuse me. I'm sorry, I misread what you said. Speaking of reading, he said, now where are the pro-blacks going for initiatives catered to black boys specifically? Good point, Black Curls. He said, I remember this article now. Oh, okay. You've read this article before. Cool. That's a very good point. Where are these pro-blacks? Where are these black women of God worshipers when it comes to this problem? Hell, yeah. But let me go on to the article. It says, okay, punishment for black boys, even first-time offenders in schools, is harsher than any other demographic. Consider these facts. Black students make up just 18% of children in U.S. preschools, but make up half of those youngsters who are suspended. Damn. Black students make up 18% of children in U.S. preschools, but make up half of the youngsters who are suspended. So half of all U.S. preschoolers who are suspended are black students. Black boys receive 2/3 of all school suspensions nationwide. All demographics and both genders considered. Woo! So 2/3 out of all kids suspended between kindergarten to 12th grade within U.S. public schools nationwide, 2/3 of these suspended students are black boys. Now that can't be. Like I said in the last video pertaining to this topic, right? Listen, all boys, right? Especially young boys, young elementary, junior high school boys, they're hyperactive, energetic, so they love to fight. They love to, play rough. They love to be hyperactive and make noise and talk a lot and do all sorts of stuff that little boys love to do. So there's no way that black boys, being that all races of boys act the same way, act rough house, act hyper, there's no way that black boys, consisting of 2/3 of all suspensions nationwide, is a coincidence. This, in my opinion, these boys are being purposely targeted. So I believe that there is even an agenda in a lot of U.S. public schools to specifically target black boys and give them harsher punishments when it comes to the things that they do. Think about this, people. Think about this. Now, black males, so-called black males, right, in America, we have the worst perception. The media throw out the worst perception about us, especially when you watch the evening news. Now, I'm not trying to make it seem as if as if every so-called black males are good people. There's good and bad in every group. We know that. But when you just watch the mainstream media, especially the news, and when you look at a lot of the crimes that happened, just by strictly look at the news, you would think that the majority of criminals nationwide are so-called black males is based on how we're being portrayed in the media, especially in the evening news. When you look at a lot of television shows, when you look at the music that have been coming out within the past 20, 25 years, you see that so-called black males are being portrayed as these big, scary, hardcore thug criminals. So you got to realize that America, within the whole racial spectrum, have been conditioned to view black males to be a specific way. They view us to be very predatory and very violent people. So when people are already conditioned with that perception of black males and they become teachers in schools, how do you think they're going to look at these young black boys? They're going to look at these young black boys as these predatory, or as these people who can become these predatory hardcore criminals, like their like they blackmail like the rest of the black male population. So when people have that thinking, usually when people think of you as being this very bad individual, when you do something wrong, they will give you, it's in the nature of people to punish you even harsher if they see you as this very fucked up individual. I guess I didn't articulate the right way, but you guys understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, that is true, Black Curls, even though most black males are not thugs. But the majority of people in America are so fickle-minded that if the television set makes it gives them this or paint this picture that black males are these thugs, they're going to ignorantly assume that most so-called black males are thugs, even though the reality is the majority of us are not. It is this conditioning that America has to think of us in this very negative way. And like I said before, when these same people decide to become teachers and teach in the public school system, when they see, once again, being conditioned with that thinking, when they see young black kids act a fool, naturally, they're going to give harsher punishments because based on how they were conditioned, they're going to look at the black boys as more of a problem than any other demographic of people. Thus is one reason why you have, in my opinion, why you have a lot of black boys being given harsher punishments, which is not right at the end of the day, because that's being biased. If what I'm saying is true, which is more, but this is some shit that we got to change. There's no way in hell black boys who make up just a small minority of all school students who attend the U.S. public education system coincidentally make up 2/3 of suspensions nationwide. They have to be targeted. As a matter of fact, I was doing deeper research, right? I was doing deeper research, right? And when I was doing deeper research, I read that within the U.S. Damn, what is it? Damn. All right, within the U.S. Department of Education, right? There's a sector within the U.S. Department of Education called something that has to do with students and civil rights. There's a sector within the U.S. Department of Education that dealt with the civil rights of school students, right? And within that department, there was over, I say, 900 complaints of student civil rights being violated. That's what I've read. Yeah, which shows that there is an agenda or there is a bias when it comes to the faculty and the administration of these schools when it comes to targeting certain people and getting them in trouble. But I'm going to move along. Okay, in Chicago, 75% of all students arrested in public schools are black. Damn. Chicago's something else. Chicago's something else, man. Going right along. What's most troubling is that not all of the black boys taken from their schools in handcuffs are violent or even criminals. Increasingly, school-assigned law enforcement officers are leading these students from their schools hallways for minor offenses, including class disruption, tardiness, and even nonviolent arguments with other students. It seems that it is easier to remove these students from class through the stigma of suspension or arrest than to look for in-school solutions. See, so what's done, and I've even seen this when I went to school in New York City, right? Like partially in my life, I've went to school in New York City, public school. I've seen this where police officers are used as the security for a lot of the schools, and it's very easy for a lot of students, especially the black male students, to be escorted out of the classroom by police, even if they do something as small as talking while in class. Talking while in class. Okay, the teacher will go outside, call a security guard, which is really a police officer, and grab the police officer to escort the kid out of class. So what they're doing right here is prepping a lot of black male students for the school to prison pipeline, where they calling the cops on the motherfucker for doing something as small as speaking in class. But going right along, right? School suspension and certainly arrest is just the beginning of a life considered on the wrong side of the law for many black boys. Once again, the school to prison pipeline. By 18 years of age, 30% of black males have been arrested at least once, compared to just 22% of white males. Those numbers rise to 49% for black men by the age of 23. Woo! And 38% of white males. Researchers from several universities concluded earlier this year that arrests early in life often set the course for more crimes and incarceration throughout the rest of the offender's lifetime. So, dang. So by the time black males turn 23 years old, over 49% of black males are arrested at least once by the time they turn 23. God damn. That's almost half of so-called black males of that age range. Shit. 49%. That's a whole lot. Okay. No wonder why they aren't in college. These trends are not conducive to improving the numbers of young black men who are able to attend college. In fact, the numbers are too small when it comes to black young men who attend and graduate from colleges in the U.S. Statistically speaking, black men have the lowest test scores, the worst grades, and the highest dropout rates, partially due to a very low literacy rate. Because once again, if you can't do something as basic as proficiently read, right, which is unfortunately, according to this article, the majority of black male students, then 9 times out of 10, they won't be able to achieve in other areas of school. But let me continue. In K-12 education and in college too, the recognition of this educational crisis has led to some strong initiatives targeted at young black men with the intention of guiding them through the college years and to successful, productive lives that follow. This is why college motivation within and outside the black community is so vital for these young men. At this point in the nation's history, they are in the greatest need for the lifestyle change that higher education can provide, and not just for individual growth, but also for the benefit of the entire nation. But in order to get there, black boys must experience the motivation to succeed well before college. I agree. Agreed. Agreed. What's going on, Mike V? Shalom, Mike V. Shalom. Yeah, man. We when it comes to how so-called black males in the United States are, how they are prepped, how they are groomed, they need to be groomed differently from how they're traditionally being groomed in Black America, in which a lot of black males are groomed to either be great athletes or be great entertainers. You know, we're quick to teach a young black child how to play a specific sport, which is nothing wrong with that. But we have to groom them. We have to do more of a job in grooming young black boys on the importance of getting an education. Because because with these high dropout rates, it's interrelated to what the high incarceration rates, which is also related to the high rate of unemployment amongst so-called black males, and it also relates to a low amount of so-called black males even having high-paid white-collar jobs. I mean, because when you have this high dropout, these high rate of high school dropouts within Black America, how can these same high school dropouts, make a decent living, or how could they increase their chances of making a decent living? That it's when children drop out of high school, or not only that, when children are not even being given the proper tools for they could actually excel in school, which will reduce the chances of them dropping out, right? They end up dropping out of school, specifically high school. And when they drop out, economically, for the most part, these same individuals will struggle. Unless if they go back to school, So what we need to do in the so-called black man's, we need to put more attention to the education crisis and the education achievement gap of black boys. Because this is something else. This is something else, man. I mean, so-called black boys are more likely to end up in special education classes than any other demographic in the United States. So-called black male students are more likely to end up in suspension than any other demographic of students, in which they make up 2/3 of all school suspensions in the United States. This is why we in the so-called black manosphere, we have to be more politically aware and more politically engaged and more politically active to actually put the pressure to these bureaucrats in local, state, and even federal political offices to come up with policies that would one day reduce or eradicate this crisis that we see in so-called black America, man. We got to put this shit in the black boys and what they're going through systematically in the education system is fucked up. I did some reading yesterday about this lady who goes by the name of Betty Devos. Her last name is spelled Devos. Betty Devos. Are you guys in the chat, or you guys that's listening, are you aware of who Betty Devos is? Betty Devos, and for you guys who are not aware of who she is, Betty Devos was the former Secretary of Education, the former U.S. Secretary of Education, appointed by Donald Trump when he was president. Now, this is what Betty Devos tried to do in 2018. Now, before I explain what she did, I have to go even before she became the U.S. Secretary of Education. Prior to Donald Trump being president, when Barack Obama was president, Barack Obama put a few regulations, not laws, but he put a few regulations within the U.S. Department of Education pertaining to the civil rights of a lot of students in America when it comes to students of different races, students of different sexual orientations, and even when it comes to protecting handicapped children. So these regulations was to protect children who, of course, were considered minorities, children who were considered members of the LGBT community, children who were considered handicapped. He put a lot of regulations in place to protect them because there was a lot of reports that the civil rights of a lot of school children was being violated by a lot of public schools in the United States. So when Betty DeVos became the U.S. Secretary of Education in 2017 by Donald Trump, that's the president who appointed her, she wanted to get rid of a lot of these civil rights regulations that was protecting students of color, students who was handicapped, students who, were being discriminated against. She wanted to get rid of these regulations. And also at the same time, there was a lot of cases that was brought up against public schools in which it was reported that a lot of these public schools was discriminating against a lot of these students, right? And what Betty DeVos, the former Secretary of Education, wanted to do, she wanted to just close these cases. And according to her logic, to make the long story short, she felt that these cases was wasting too much of the government's money and too much of the government's time. And it had too much backlog, or in other words, it was taking up too much space, according to her. That was her excuse, which is bullshit. So you mean to tell me that the welfare and the civil rights of students is not important, but what's more important is to just clear up space for the government when it comes to the government's task? So you would rather close cases in which it's reported that the rights of children is being violated when they go to school. So this is what you so even at the very top, when it comes to the federal government, you have an agenda, right? Well, you had an agenda where people want to ignore or remove the civil rights of students. So of course if that would have happened, where it didn't happen, thank God, because what happened is, like I said, Betty DeVos wanted to remove these civil rights regulations, but she ended up rescinding on that because there were several organizations threatening to sue the government for doing such a thing. So she backed off, thank God. But what I'm saying is that the fact that she had that intent in the first place, and she's in a very powerful position, it's a problem because, of course, it trickles down to a lot of black male students, in which if she removed these regulations, then these black male students who are already suffering at the hands of the public education system would suffer more, because there would be less consequences and repercussions for those within these public education systems to mistreat these who would have mistreated these black male students, suggesting if these civil rights regulations were removed. That's fucked up. But yet, then again, you have a lot of people within the so-called black manosphere who are they consider themselves to be some of the biggest fans and supporters of Donald Trump. But yet, Donald Trump had somebody within his administration who wanted to remove civil rights regulations of students, of children. Oh boy. What the gentleman, the man of God said, he said, Wacky, that white supremacists, he said, Wacky, what white supremacists wants is putting black men and boys in jail. Yeah, that's what they want. Black Curse says, if there's going to be a welfare, it should be directly towards the children. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Children in need. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Yeah, Black Curls. Yeah, he tried to put my Brothers Keep initiative for the boys. Yeah. Well, people don't know. What a lot of people don't know. I'm not saying you don't know Black Curls. I'm just saying in general, a lot of people don't know that the My Brothers initiative that Barack Obama tried to place in 2014 was inspired by what was going on in New York City at the time. Ever since 2011, the former mayor of New York City named Mike Bloomberg, he had an initiative called the Young Men's Initiative, in which it was targeted in helping a lot of black and Latino young males, to those who drop out of high school, to end up to go back to school and getting high school education. It was helping. It was initiatives. That initiative was also targeted in helping to decrease the incarceration or the arrest rates of young black and Latino men, and increase the employment rate of young black and Latino men, and to actually also improve in places of parenting amongst black and Latino males who had children, and also to help improve the educational or the academic performance of young black and Latino males. So that My Brothers initiative that Barack Obama came up with was partially inspired by former Mayor Mike Bloomberg's Young Men's Initiative in New York City. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. Yeah. But all right, that's all I have to put out. I mean, I just put out one article, but it's up to you guys. If you guys are interested in this topic when it comes to black boys and the challenges they face when it comes to the public education system, y'all could read up some more on that. I just read one article. I could have read plenty more articles, but that'll make this video even longer than it is. Black Curse says, I knew it's amazing how it gets swept under the rug because it was specifically catered to black boys. Yeah. Barack Obama's My Brothers Keeper initiative and Mike Bloomberg's Young Men's initiative, it was catered to so-called black boys. But we had when it comes to the My Brothers Keeper initiative, we had our sisters that disrupted it. Our sisters came and disrupted it. Yeah. But these are the same sisters that some people within the so-called black manosphere want us to have this imaginary negotiation table with, for they could, exchange their submission for our resources. Oh man. That's ridiculous. All right. So I'm going to exactly, Black Curls. They pulled an All Lives Matter on black boys. Yeah. But okay, so I thank y'all for coming on here. So I'm going to end this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So anyhow, shout outs to all you guys in the chat, and shout outs to everyone who was watching it or will watch this on the playback. All right. Great show, Wacky. I missed most of this show because I was teaching We'll watch, huh? Or you was teaching. Okay. Oh, you was teaching. Okay. We'll watch the playback. All right, Wadner. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Y'all have a good night. Peace.